want to test it to do this properly in future, you should be able to hear my voice, and you should be able to leave messages. I don't know if you can, but there should be streaming on my Twitter, on my YouTube, and my Twitch. So it's definitely streaming on the YouTube, I know that much. Okay. I don't know about my Twitch. You may have to check my Twitch. But yes, I should be on there. Sophie. Let's have a look. See if it's actually working. Hopefully it will be. So, oh, am I the right way round? I don't even know. Should be. I was hoping that it's actually doing my voice. Let's have a look. See if it's actually working. Hopefully it will be. So, oh, am I the right way round? I don't even know. Should be. And now you've probably just heard me. I'm muted on Twitch, but that's fine. I just wanted to see if it actually works. And just something I want to be able to copy over to and just share from my YouTube as well. So we'll see. Give me a second. Sorry about this, guys. Test. Okay. Cool, so that's now shared. So I'm just going to do some tests really. I'm going to show you how I colour, how I draw in Procreate, as you can see my screen here. And I mean, I don't know what to expect, to be honest with you guys. It's going to be a bit odd. But we'll see how it goes. But just do let me know if you're watching. And you will see how it goes. But apparently I should be able to get messages as well. So that's good, I think. So this was one I've started earlier. So this is my Kate Stewart. Now Kate is going to be available for colouring in yourself. So I'm going to put her up later today during the Save the Day event. There's also other characters that I'm going to have up for you to draw yourself. I think this one's quite a nice one to colour. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you what I do. So first off, some Procreate basics. This is how this is your layout really. So I've made a piece of A4 and I'm using my fingers, so my thumb and forefinger, or any two fingers, to stretch and create a zoom in and out effect on here. I then have my sketch, so that it's all done in layers here, you see. So you can see layer 2, another layer 2, for some reason, I'll make live stream earlier, and then a layer 3 which is empty. And what you can do is you can draw in one layer and not in the other. So for example, in this one, if I draw here, it doesn't affect the bottom layer. And you can switch them off with these little checkpoints here. So it's, again, very similar to Photoshop if you've used Photoshop before. I'm going to go through my favourite tool, just because I think it is probably one of the best tools, and it's the selection tool. Now, you can do it in lots of different ways, but I preferably, so I can colour really easily, I like to use what's called the freehand tool, which is just there. And basically it works a little bit like a pen, so like the pen tool in Procreate. And basically from where the beginning is, you just drag your selection tool over what you want to colour in. So I'm going to I'm going to select the entirety of what I want coloured in, which would be all of Kate. So I'm just going to use my fingers to pinch and pull so I can go round the outline. So I'm going to do this a little bit sloppy, but you can see what I mean. Just to go round and use the selection tool. If you get it wrong like that, if you press with 2 fingers, you can change it. So that's really cool. And you can, if you want it to redo again, you press 3 fingers. Oh, there you go. So that's another reason why you use 2 fingers. And you just go around. Unfortunately, you can't see much. I'm sure you can see the selection bit here. If I had like a drop-down camera, which is something I am thinking about doing at some point, you can see exactly how I use my pen. But for now, you can just see what you can see here. Hopefully this is actually interesting. And yep, and then you can draw outside the frame like that and highlight the entirety of your piece. So now, here are the colours here. You can choose any colour you want. I usually go for a colour I know I'm not going to be using, so I'm going to go for something like purple. And then all you have to do is set the colour and drag it into the space that you've coloured, which is now underneath my layer. It's really cool. And then when you finish with your selection, I mean, you can still use the selection as you have. So, for example, I might want to use another brush. So I might want to airbrush it, like so, to create some shadow that I'll use later. And I'll just it's using exactly the same selection tool to there we go, like that. So already I'm able to add a little bit of highlight, a little bit of shadow, to be able to maybe put my colour in. But yeah, it's really just a kind of standard on how to use this. This is just a test really at the end of the day. Up here you've got your brush tool. You can choose whatever you want to draw in, paint in. There's lots and lots of different features. I downloaded an ink selection of comics inks that I use. So I use this one called Kolinsky Rough, which I really like, but you can use any. So you've got like a Schwartz pen, so if you're really into your Calvin Hobbes. And then on the side here there is a brush tool, like the size of the brush, so you can do that on that side. And then there's an opacity, so you can turn on the opacity just underneath that, so it, you know, it's not, you can just go over it. Opacity tool. So I delete that. But yeah, so back to our drawing. Obviously Kate Stewart isn't purple, so what we're going to do is we're going to again do a very similar thing. I'm going to choose the colour I want first this time. So her hair is actually quite bright, so we'll stick with that. And again, I'm going to use the selection tool, and I'm going to select. Oops! I'm going to use the selection tool just to select her hair. So you're wondering, like, why that's not going to work, because you haven't selected all of her hair. You've gone outside the line. Well, don't worry, people. I will explain how that works. Basically, we're going to be creating what's called a clipping mask. So it clips to the very bottom of, so the bottom picture. And because we highlighted all of Kate earlier, I mean only all of Kate will be coloured in. Hopefully that will make sense. But I'll be able to show you quite easily in the layers in a second. But yeah, you don't have to take any sort of care with that. That's great. You highlight it, get the yellow colour, and drop it into her hair. So at the moment, that looks rubbish, Sophie. Yeah, it does. But if you look at the layers again, if you tap on layer 4, it gives you a load of options. So I can invert the colour, I can merge it down with what was below it, I can clear it completely, I can fill it with a different colour, I can copy it. What we want is clipping mask. Now clipping mask, you press that and it clips to the bottom layer. Which means now, I don't have to worry about anything that happened while I was doing the drawing. So if I was to suddenly start colouring in here, just to show you, no matter what happens, it won't go outside the hairline. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, we're going to go back to my old brushes there, and all the opacities back up. So yeah, so you can see that's really, really handy. So we know that Kate wears like a blue coat, so I'm going to put her in blue. And again, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to highlight just the coat bits, and because I know that the hair layer is above the coat layer, I can also do that with the hair as well and not worry about it. It's quite a nice touch. So I'm just going to highlight all the coat. And there we go. Easy peasy. Now Kate's a bit purple, but that's okay. We are now more in line with what we had before. Also, so you can see the hair layer is above the coat layer, but they are still clipped to this bottom shape here. Without that shape, we couldn't do this. If I deleted this shape, it would just be a bundle of colour and flat colour. We don't want to do that. So, next is actually, she's not just wearing a coat, she's wearing a black shirt. So again, we can either colour in, or we can do it the way we have been. Use selection tool just to grab that shirt section, and there we have it. And now I'm just going to change the bottom. Well, actually, I won't change the bottom colour. I will select the skin colour. Find the skin colour, and then we're going to just select the skin bit. And there we have it. So you do have other selections up here as well. This program is an amazing piece of kit. Like, it can do everything that Photoshop can do. If you go to up here, there's a little magic wand. It'll give you all these different variety of things that you can do with your layer. So I like to use hue, saturation, brightness. So I'm not far off with her skin colour, but I want to kind of play with it. So I'm using the saturation tool. So I'm bringing it down. There we go. Already I'm much happier with that than I was. As you can see, the clipping masks are still being used, which is great. But also, as you can see there, I've coloured in something that shouldn't be skin, so her hair, earrings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eraser tool up here. I'm using exactly the same. You can use any of the tools you want for the eraser tool. And what's lovely is if you hold down the eraser tool, it will erase your current brush, so it doesn't worry. It doesn't change anything. So you can see I'm now erasing with the current tool. As you can see, I've actually messed up a little bit here as well, so I can go in, just use my eraser, just tighten up that area so it looks a little bit better. So already this is starting to look like Kate Stewart. And then we've still got my shadow layer there, and again all I want to do is I want to put my clipping mask. As long as you click on clipping mask, it will go over the top. So already it's working lovely. So now we've actually got our shadow. I can show you how to use the multiply layers. So again, you may have seen these layers, these different functions for layers on Photoshop or something like that. But basically, anytime that you've got a layer on top of another one, you can change the kind of the format or the function that layer has. So you can go through and you can pick what works best for you. Linear burn looks quite nice. Darker colour. I usually go for soft light or hard light, depending on what I'm going for with the shadow. And again, I can go in, use the airbrush tool again, take a nice dark colour. I usually go for black, and I'm just gonna use, I didn't even select it, soft brush, and then I'm just gonna go over it again, just to make sure we have that added dynamicness. So there we go. Other things that we can do is we can also add some lighting. So once I've always got the colour in, I can then use, again, the same brush, but I'm just going to add in some light touches. We want to make sure that, you know, she stands out, that she's good. And again, we're going to go and use the different layers here. Ooh, not always perfect. I usually use a soft light when using light layers like that. Just so we can get the kind of feel for the lighting that we do. Also, like if you want to do something without using the clipping mask, you want to do something else. I like using on top of the clipping mask. I always put the kind of like little like eye highlight. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm just gonna put a nice little eye highlight. Oh, let's bring that back. Yep, fantastic. Well done me. I'm just gonna draw that in. Which is pretty good. Just like that. Also, people might want to know about how I do my my rosy cheeks on Kate. So it's something I actually learned from watching Ethel and Ernest, which is a brilliant, absolutely stunning piece of animation that was made by Lupus Films, inspired directly by Raymond Briggs's comics about his parents. And it's lovely, really lovely work. And yeah, they just have really rosy kind of cheeks, and it looks great. So I've kind of been borrowing from their example and just kind of adding a little bit of rouge to the skin colour, just to kind of give it a little bit of life. Now, it doesn't always work. Sometimes I look at it and go, that doesn't work. And I then try again. So, you know, and sometimes it's to do with the colour tone that it's with, and that's fine. So just like trying to make sure that I have all the right stuff. Again, it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of play. But also with this, I can also use the opacity tool. So I know that's where I kind of want it, but it's not working. So if I go to the adjustment tool, I go to the Gaussian blur, I can then actually use that for my placement. And already that looks a lot better. And again, we can then go back to our layers. We can roll through, see which one actually works. So the colour burn, the linear burn actually works quite well. We can bring that down. Already, that looks pretty good to me. So again, with the airbrush, so like for example her lips, I might want to just do a little bit here, just to give her a lip. We can bring down the opacity on that layer as well, so it's not right in our face, or we can leave it as it is. It is really up to you how you want to use the tools that are presented to you. I'm also going to change the colour of her earrings. I usually go for like silver for Kate, but you don't have to. And also we've still got the gold things to put on Kate's coat. So again, I'm going to go back to my normal brush. This time I'm just going to just draw it in, because I know that it's going to be fine. So we zoom in, and then we just colour as you would with any sort of colouring utensil, so it's all fine. And then here again we've got a nice circle, and then I know up here we've also got a nice circle, and there we go. So we're not far off actually finishing off this, but I'm going to just do a little bit more for you. So again, I'm just going to make sure these are all clipped, so they're all attached, so I know exactly what's going on with these. Now, what I usually do is I actually add a kind of a tighter shadow than what you see here, just because usually, yeah, I usually just add in the shadow just to add a little more pop. So I've taken the black pen as I did before, but I'm just actually putting in really quite tight shadows. You'll see why I do that in a minute. So just tighten that up here. So inside of her ear there could be a potential shadow. Using the opacity, I'm just going to go down and go to overlay, bring the opacity down. Now we have a really nice piece of shadow, and then I can still, using the same settings, go through and just add quite nice little shadows just to make everything pop. So I do this with almost all of my drawings. This is how all my drawings are done, to be honest with you. I am a creature of habit, I should really learn other ways of doing things, and I do kind of learn on and off, but in terms of how I get this to work, this is kind of what you expect from me on a day-to-day. And again, I can reduce the opacity on this one later, so I'm just going through and finding some nice moments where I think I would have shadow. Oh, let me do that. That's my cat hairballing, sorry about that. See thing. And again, I might want to do some stuff up here. With her hair. What are you doing, silly cat? He sat at the edge of the bed and just kind of having a moment. Yeah, I might want to put in some shadow here. I mean, this is just, I have already finished this picture, but it's just to show you how I may or may not colour this in. I also do the same thing with highlights, and once I'm happy with the shadow, again I add a new layer, and I do exactly the same thing with white, but I put that where I think I'm going to put my highlights. So I usually put my highlights on the hair, I might do it on her earring. I usually do it like this. There's also here. Could do it that way. And again, just looking at the layers, if you go into the layer selection tool, just pressing the N, I can then choose exactly how I want to use this. And I'm going to use soft light. I usually use soft light. And then I can just add here where I think I'm going to have my highlight compared to where my shadow was. No, it's not perfect, but and sometimes you might go, actually that's not working. So yeah, that's really what I do. To be honest with you, that's how it goes. I'll show you my little painterly effect that I do, which is just a nice kind of texture that I use on top of my pictures. But yeah, just to show you, I'm just going to reduce this down. There we go. Give her a little bit of highlight on her nose. There you go, and already I'm pretty pleased with that. Considering I've done that quite quickly. I do take quite a lot of time doing the colouring and working exactly what colours I want to use. So being under pressure, it does kind of make things even more difficult. But in saying that, I'm really happy with the drawing, so that's good. What I do now, so looking at what I've got here, I've got quite a lot of clipping masks. So what I tend to do is, before I finish, in the brush library they have some lovely painterly sort of brushes, and they've got one called dry brush. Now I really like dry brush. What I do, I make quite a big one, and then I just kind of paint in where I think I'd want my texture to be. So for her hair, I kind of paint it into like the natural wave of her hair, which is quite fun to do, to be honest. And try not paint it on her face, because I found the textures like that on her face just kind of ruin the texture. Doesn't look as good. And then I do the same thing with her coat, where I think the folds of the coat would have that thing going on. So again, doesn't have to be perfect, because you then will use the multiply tool. So again, you go into that, so we know layer 16 is the right one. We go through and we see which one works the best. I usually use something like overlay, depending on the colours that's being used. And sometimes I might even change the colour of it to black, and then actually go again over top of like the hair in white, just depending on what I'm going for, really, and just in terms of colouring something in. there you have it. The only last thing really I need to do is I put this in a group. So once if you swipe from the left to right on each layer, you can then highlight your layers, and once you've highlighted them all, you can press G for group. And now they're all in one group. They're all pretty contained. And then I just you can, with Procreate, some really nice things you can do is you can move the layers around still. So using one finger, you highlight it and you can drag, which is nice. With the background colour, you can choose whatever colour you want. I like going with blue, and you can see there already where I've not used the clipping mask on that last texture, so I do need to fix that. So we'll do that in a second. So again, we're going to group. You can see that clipping mask is required on these ones. Don't do it on your actual art, your ink, because if you do that, it will look weird, as you can see. So I don't do that. But definitely everything else. And then what I like to do as well is I like to go into the airbrush, and I like to just like kind of soften the background a bit, depending on obviously what kind of thing I'm trying to do. I'm kind of trying to create an illusion of space as though she's out and about. That one do white a bit further down there, that's it. And as always, I add my signature. So again, I just go in, I find the ink I want to use. You can use any of these to do your drawings with. These are just what I use. And I just put in my signature like that. And already we have something you can use. And what's quite nice is if I find that there's something I really want to do to this picture, I can go in, I can pinch, and I can just fix whatever I want. If I want to add more in, if I want to give her some lines, I can do that. It's really my prerogative when it comes to the image. But you can see I've already made a mistake there, so maybe I shouldn't do that. But, you know. Right, so yeah, it's great fun. You can kind of do what you want. Procreate is lovely. I will show you other things at some point. I just don't want to spoil what's to come, because this is one of many things that I'll be posting up for Save the Day. And I hope you enjoyed my kind of test run on Drawing Live. I'm hoping to do a bit more of it now that we're all in isolation, all at home. And I hope you enjoyed my little doodle of Kate Stewart, and I'll be putting up some more later. So thank you very much, and I'll speak to you guys